Welcome to Winning with Anna Lee. I'm your host, Anna Lee Leonard, president of Mainstay Financial Group, right on the corner of Cervantes and Perry. And what we do, all of my career, what I've done is educate people so that you can make good, enlightened decisions in the financial world. Because those are the decisions that very often, once you make them, you can't go back and change them. So you need to be informed about what you're doing and how you're doing it and why you're doing it. So Joan and I talked a little bit and decided that today we really should talk about Social Security, because that's a big topic now. And you know, we've got more and more the baby boomers in that age group. They're getting ready to claim, and I'm always amazed at the misinformation that exists.
Well, that's true. And you know, I talk to a lot of people with Medicare, and whenever that always is part of the conversation, Social Security. And I agree with you. It's amazing how many people say to me, yeah, I'm taking Social Security. I started at 62 because my friend told me to.
My friend told me to.
Yeah.
You know, that's always one of my pet peeves. My friend told me to. Well, and so how's he doing financially? This is really where you need to pull teams together, professionals together. Let's kind of go back a little bit in the history. You know, Social Security, I think most people know it was Franklin Roosevelt that put it into motion in 1935. And yes, that was long before I was born. 1935, he put this whole program into motion, and originally it was only for widows and orphans. It was not what we have today. It was not that structure.
Right. Well, now people look at it like their pension.
Yeah.
But back in those days, it really was to help widows who had no income after their primary wage earner passed away.
Right, and over the years it has evolved, and what it really is, let's talk about what it really truly is. It's first of all a predetermined amount of income. So in essence, yes, it is a pension because it's a predetermined amount of income. Now, how much you're going to get depends on you and the income you've generated during your lifetime. That's what determines what your benefit is going to be. It's a steady income. I mean, every month that check is there. It's in the, you know, please don't be getting them in your post office box. Have them deposited straight into your checking account as a safety measure. But every month it's right there. It's a steady. It's for your lifetime. You know, nobody says, okay, listen, you live too long, you're 85, so we're not sending you Social Security anymore. If you live to be 110, they got to keep paying you. And lifetime income, as we know, is becoming more and more important because we're living
longer, and because so many people don't have any other source of lifetime income anymore, because company pensions are few and far between these days, aren't they?
They're starting to run out. Yeah. They really are. Now it's inflation adjusted, and I'm going to go back to that in a minute, and it has survivor benefits. So that's a good thing. Now, when we talk about the inflation adjustment, I find this amazing because, you know, people are saying, well, they're not giving us any raises, they're not doing anything. If you go back in history, and I always love to go back because history does repeat itself, but you go back in history in 1980, do you have any idea what the cost of living increase was?
I have no idea.
1980, the cost of living increase was 14.3%.
Oh, that was back in the days where we had that huge inflationary period.
Exactly.
Right.
And then in 1981, it was 11.2, 82, it was 7.4. And after that, it started dropping to the threes, went back into the fours in the 80s, back up to 5.4 in 91. But what we've been seeing lately, or the fours, the threes, 2009, it was 5.8.
Wow.
In 2009. Then in 10 and 11, we went to 2 years of zero. Back with the 3.6, down to 1.7, 1.5, 1.75. 216 was a zero. In 217, they gave us a whopping 0.3.
Oh, 0.3.
0.3. I mean, 217 was great. So we're experiencing that cycle now where our cost of living adjustments are lower, but the government is doing a lot of things, and we'll talk about that, to remodel the program so that we do have assets, and we're going to be able to give people cost of living adjustments, because we all know inflation is the biggest enemy to your retirement. It's the biggest that's out there. So I just wanted to kind of go into that, because people really come in and get real grouchy about the fact that, you know, we're not getting a cost of living. Well, it's happened before, and if the changes continue to come about that have been started in motion for a number of years now, I think we'll see more of those coming along.
Well, you know, one of the criticisms about that cost of living increase is that they use an index that doesn't reflect the kinds of things that people our age consume. So they feel like they really shouldn't use I forget the index they use. But they should use something that reflects what we do in our age group. And hopefully that will.
You mean in your age group?
Oh yeah, right.
Not mine.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to imply anything.
All right. So yeah, really. So it's a federal program. It's set up now. How does the money get there? Well, while we're working, there's this wonderful little thing on your paycheck. If you look at it, it's called FICA, F-I-C-A. FICA deductions come out, and that is money that is put into Social Security. That is money that is put into the Medicare
Part A
program. Now, when you reach a certain level of income, this year it's like $127,000. You reach a certain level of income, they stop taking Social Security tax out, but they continue to take Medicare out no matter how much you make.
Oh, okay.
So when we're talking about changes, this is one of the changes where the writing's kind of on the wall, that they're going to up that level of income where they're going to continue to take Social Security benefits. Why? Because people today are making much higher incomes than they did years ago, and they do adjust it for inflation somewhat, but I don't think enough for what's happening. So I think that's one of the things that we're going to see happening, where that will help to put more dollars into
the fund that keeps it going.
So you've got to work to get Social Security. You to get the benefit, you had to have worked a certain amount of time, and I think you know what that is.
I do. It's well, they call it 40 quarters, which is the equivalent to 10 years.
10 years.
And it doesn't have to be 10 years in a row. It can be as long as there's a cumulative effect of the 10 years, or 40 quarters.
Right.
Paying into the system.
So 10 years you've got to work, you've got to put into the system. Now, where some people get really messed up a little bit, federal workers have what's called an offset with Social Security. Some of the teachers in Texas, Louisiana, they get an offset with Social Security, which to me isn't real fair, but what can they didn't ask me about it. I think we should help our teachers any way we can. But it's at full 10 years, and there's a big misconception people look at, and they say, well, you know, Joan, my benefits depend on my last 5 years of work.
Oh, okay. Well, let's explain that.
They depend on your last 35 years of work.
35?
Okay? 35. They average out all of the years that you've worked. Now, for most people, and this is where the 5-year misconception comes in, for most people, the last 5 years of your income tend to be the highest. So they give that Social Security a boost. It's kind of like it's been here at a level, and now that you're making more money, all of a sudden it's increasing. So people think, oh yeah, they're going to look at the last 5 years. Well, the last 5 years make a difference, but they look way back.
Oh, okay.
To figure out how much you're going to get. And there's a whole very complicated formula they use to figure out your benefit, which if anybody really wants it, you can come to my class that I teach at Pensacola State College, or we teach over in in Fairhope. Also. You know, and I give out these nice little charts on Social Security, and they tell you how the formulas exactly are figured out. But do it the easy way. Go to socialsecurity.gov and set up your own little site, and it will tell you what your benefits will be at the different ages when you can collect income.
And you know, speaking of that, Annalee, so many people say, oh I'm so afraid to go do that, to put my personal information. You know, I mean, it's safe, it's secure, and I highly recommend it, even to Medicare.gov, the same thing, to put in your, develop your own little account.
Yeah,
you
so
get personalized
in order
information.
to do that, someone has got to have all of your information to go in there.
Right.
You know, we just went through that big scare with Equifax, and I had clients calling me on the security side. Well, we've got all kind of measures in there that someone can't just call over the phone and say, I want money. You have to have something that's been signed, a signature has to be compared. I then get a verification directly from the client that these funds are needed. So somebody can't just call up and say, oh, put $500 into my checking account. That's not going to happen. I'm not minimizing the threats that are out there with breaches of security, but there are a lot of backups over the years that have been developed.
Right.
So go to that site, socialsecurity.gov, and it will give you an idea, what will my benefits be at my earliest age, at my full retirement, and at the highest level that I can get. So we'll talk more about this when we come back from break, because I want to get into those breaks of the age group, okay?
Good. Yeah, sounds like a
We'll
plan.
be back in just 1 minute.
Retirement strategies come in all shapes and sizes. One strategy does not fit all when it comes to reaching your retirement goals, and considering all your options may be, well, more than you want to think about. So whether you're looking to retire or already living in retirement, you need a strategy tailor-made for you.
Hi, I'm Annalee Leonard with Mainstay Financial Group, and I'm here to design a financial plan for you and for those that you love.
Hart, what's going on?
I'm leaving.
Why? What did I do?
Not enough. You constantly ignore me. You barely eat anything healthy. You're half as active as you used to be. The pressure is just too much. I quit.
Okay, I get it. I'll do better. Just please, don't leave.
Okay. But remember, if I go, you go.
Listen to your heart. Don't let it quit on you. Uncontrolled high blood pressure could lead to stroke, heart attack, or death. Get yours to a healthy range before it's too late.
There's a shelter pet who wants to meet you. Meet one today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org. Adopt.
Mainstay Financial Group offers advocacy and personal financial guidance in a caring environment. That's the heart of our practice. At Mainstay, we're dedicated to exemplary service and a caring relationship with our client, not with a number. Plan for the future now with Mainstay Financial Services.
Welcome back to Winning with Annalee. I'm your host, Annalee Leonard, and today my partner, Joan Connell, and I are talking about Social Security and what it does. And, you know, Joan, you're our Medicare long-term care person that we go to find out what are our options in those areas. But Social Security with Medicare, it's kind of all part of the same pot of money, which is why I asked you to be with me today, because what we do over here can kind of affect what's going on over there, and a lot of misconceptions people have about those two.
Well, one of the biggest things that impacts us on Medicare is that the cost of living increase that you talked about just a little while ago always has an impact, either negatively or positively, on the Medicare Part B premium that we pay every year. So in the fall, we always wait to see what that cost of living increase is going to be, because then they calculate how much the Part B premium will be for the year coming.
Yes, it is that wonderful thing called inflation. You know, we can't expect to pay for a Medicare Part B premium today what people were paying for that in 1940, 50.
No.
I mean, it's going to go up because cost of medicine goes up, everything goes up. So let's go back to when you can claim Social Security. The earliest anyone can make a claim, unless it's a disability situation, okay, or a widow type thing. I'm talking about regular Social Security benefits. The earliest you can claim is age 62. 62. Now, you go from 62 to 66. 66, for the majority of us, is considered full retirement age.
Right.
It all goes back to when you were born. So some people now that are coming in, they're 66 in so many months. Some people that are coming in, their full retirement age is 67. So it all is based upon when you were born.
Yeah, up until, if you were born up until 1954, right
Yes.
now your full retirement age is 66.
Is 66.
And then from 66 on up to 67, which will, I think, occur in 1960. They add months to that 66, and then in 1960, if you're born in 1960, it then becomes 67 years
It
of age.
becomes 67. So what we're starting to see is the younger people are going to have a longer time before they can claim full, their complete Social Security. Now they can still claim at 62, but let's talk about the pitfalls of that. And people come in all the time and they say to me, Annalee, when should I claim my Social Security? You know what my answer is? I don't know.
You have no idea.
I have no idea until I run the numbers. Now, once I put all the numbers together, including the rest of your financial picture, then we can come to the optimum time for you to go ahead and start that Social Security, because there's a huge difference between collecting at 62 and collecting at 66. Now, between 66 and 70, the benefits go up right at 8% a year. So I tell people this all the time. If you're going to retire and you're going to have a pension, and the boss says, listen, if you stay with me 4 more years, I'll increase your pension by 8% a year.
Or if somebody said you're going to increase your salary by 8% every year, would you leave? I
No.
don't think so.
No,
You know?
but we take that whole idea of Social Security very flippantly, because people say to me, oh, Annalee, I don't know if I'm going to be here. Well, that's true. We don't. But the wisest decision normally is to plan for long term. And that's what we have to look at, because none of us have that crystal ball that says, you know, oh, I'm only going to make it to 68 or I'm going to make it to 72. We don't know that. So you plan for the optimum if you can. Now, saying that, if it's going to change your style of living, if it will allow you to get on a plane or get in a car and go see the grandkids, if it makes a difference between whether you can pay for your groceries or pay a mortgage or whatever, then yes, take it. But don't just throw a dart at the board, or because Joe down the street says, yeah, you better take Social Security. Don't base your decision on that.
right.
You know, it just
Too
doesn't
many
make
people
good
do.
sense.
Too
Just
many
doesn't
people
make
do.
good
Yeah.
sense. So you want to run the numbers. Then the other thing you want to look at in a household, if you have a married couple, who made the most money? What we term the high wage earner. Now, the high wage earner should put off taking as long as you possibly can. Multiple reasons. It's going to be a bigger income during all those retirement years. You know, it used to be people retired 64, 65, and they lived in retirement 2, 3, 4 years. Well, now we're planning for people to be in retirement
20 years.
30 years. So you want to have as much backup during those years as you possibly can. So we look at the entire picture and determine with everything else that's in there, what's the best time. So if you're the major wage earner, you wait till 70. And let's just take some numbers.
Yeah.
Let's say you're the major wage earner and your Social Security at 70 will be $3,000. Your spouse, let's say, didn't work as long, or maybe had a job, didn't pay as much, benefit there is $1,000. Well, if the major wage earner passes away, this person steps into that person's shoes and now is bringing in $3,000 a month. The $1,000 goes away, but instead of being left with just $1,000, they're left with $3,000. So that helps in the planning process. So when people come in to see me, I warn them, I'm going to knock them off. You know, and you have to
Like,
do
what
that.
if?
You have
What
to
if
say,
this
what
happens?
if this person passed away, how is that person going to survive? And you need to do that to be doing true planning. So for the spouse, that can mean a tremendous amount of difference. For your own income, it can mean a tremendous amount of difference, okay? Now, if you're 66, that full retirement age, for most of us now, you can work, you can make as much money as you want and still put money into Social Security. And if you're not collecting, your benefits going up. If you are collecting, you're giving yourself a raise because you're still putting into the system, okay? Now, if you're below that 66, you have to be very careful about working because they then come in with very specific limits as to how much you can make.
Right.
And if you make too much, you've got to get some back. It's adjusted for inflation every year. So again, before you do that, if you're going to do that, consult one of the professionals, sit down, have us run the numbers for you to see, is it worth taking it, because they're going to take some of it back. So, you know, don't think if you're making $20,000 a year and your Social Security benefit is 15 that you're at 35, because you won't be. So you got to know what your numbers are. Okay, you have to understand that.
The importance of a plan.
The importance of a plan, and that's why I said this idea of, oh, I'm just going to take it because it's there, or my friend said to take it, or I don't know when to take it.
Or I better take it now because it might run out.
It might run out.
You know, I mean, we hear all the,
well,
we hear all of them.
All those stories come across, and you know, I can tell you this: a lot of changes are being made in the system. They started with the last administration with the Social Security coming in and saying that they were no longer going to allow people to do what's called file and suspend. That started last 2016, January. If you were 62 then, you got 4 years from then, you can still do that. After that, you cannot, and anyone who was not 62 in January of 2016 cannot take advantage of that, okay? Now, that one move is putting billions, not with an M, with a B, billions of dollars back into the system, okay? Stretching the full retirement age from 66 to 67 slowly is going to put billions back into the system. They've changed spousal benefit. So if two people are married and the spouse goes out and claims, let's say again the $3,000, and let's say the spouse's benefit is $1,600. Well, 15. Let's say it's $1,500, but they don't want to claim theirs yet because they want it to grow. Social Security is going to look and say, wait, your own is half or more than half of your spouse. You can't do this anymore. You have to claim your own. You have to claim your own. So changes are happening that are going to keep money in there, first of all, and that's the biggest thing. If we can keep money in, we can keep that money growing and have the resources to pay more people. So changes are taking place, and the one thing I'm going to tell you is, please don't be Chicken Little running around, the sky's falling, the sky is falling. It hasn't fallen yet, although we thought it would a couple of times in the beginning of September, didn't we, with everything that was happening. But look at the reality of what's there before you make that decision. And then here's the other thing people don't like to hear, but some of your Social Security could be taxed.
Yes.
Yeah, two sides of that coin. Flip the coin.
That's
you
right.
know?
That's right.
It is inflation adjusted. It goes by numbers for single, for married. In that formula, the adjusted gross income, they actually figure half of your Social Security goes in that formula. So you've got to know how to figure the formula to see, is that going to up your tax bracket? Okay.
Right.
So some of the things you can do, you know, you might want to early start taking some out of some of those highly taxable accounts, pull those down a little bit so your required minimum distribution isn't so much later, put the Social Security off till later so you're getting the higher amount as a steady income, that might help balance some of what's there. So it's again, it's sitting down working with a professional.
I know. I mean, it's so confusing. It really is confusing for the common, ordinary individual.
Yeah.
So, coming to see you or someone who specializes like you do, that's the solution.
Yeah, I think it is, and we're here. We're willing to help you answer your questions on Social Security, Medicare, your financial planning long term. Give us a call, 437-3127. Come in. It won't cost you anything, and we'll see if we can help you. If we can, I certainly will. And the main thing is you have to develop a plan to know what you're doing and why you're doing it for the long run. That is the most important thing that you can possibly do. Go to our Facebook page, look at our classes coming up. We do a tremendous amount of educational events all through the year. And my purpose in doing those is to help people make enlightened decisions.
Correct.
That's the big thing. Please don't just throw the dart at the board. Don't just think you have the answers. You might be leaving a very vital, important part out of what you're doing. Bring me what you've done. We'll look at it compared to what we put together, and we'll see where we go. We'll see you next month. Have a good one. Stay safe. And as always, keep winning with Anna Lee.